So it may cause a very contentious situation, but I would think that the ACC, looking at what is possible from a negative standpoint, could say to take the numbers that Mike Alford threw out there. If you do the math, it's pretty easy to see that there would be a 7% split currently for every school in the ACC. 14
Mhm.
times 7 is 98, a little bit over 7% per institution. Mike Alford made the comment, we're bringing in more than 15% of the revenue. Therefore, we should earn more than twice of what we're earning right now. Well, you take a contract that is currently paying out each member in the ACC something like $37 or $38 million
Mhm.
per season. And if it's rightly distributed, well, suddenly Miami and Florida State are making 80 million.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that it would be a one-to-one. And like that's the
Sure.
beauty of a conference.
Yeah.
Like we all pull it together, like we're all one
Sure.
big family, you know what I mean?
It's
Like we
almost
all sit
like
down at the same
revenue
table.
sharing in baseball to a certain extent, that there's an understanding that there's a baseline
Mhm.
where we all share to an extent. And then at one point, at an exorbitant point, either to the positive or negative, you take this leftover money and say, these three or these five are earning it. So,
Yeah.
so
But I
I
mean
would I
also
would see
there's
some kind of combination of the two.
but there's like a salary floor in baseball too, like the Marlins got, a reprimand for that and then they extended somebody a couple of years ago. They were like, you're literally not spending enough money because we're all pulling it together. So you're getting all this revenue sharing money and you're not spending it in terms of contracts. So like, is there a team? Is there a school that's skimping on their athletic department in that kind of a way? I think probably in the ACC, um, but even if you're on the lower expenditure end, right, you still need the incoming money, and that's what I was saying. Like, look, everybody pull it together, we split it up, and you know, even if teams at the top end are making 12 to 15% of the money, whether that's because like Florida State does have the Florida game every year, that's a big one in the non-conference. So like there's that, and then if they play another one and things like that, so maybe they're making more than Miami is by fractions, by a couple percent. But I would think that you're looking at maybe not double, not exactly what you put in is what you get out, but yeah, more. So if it's more on the, probably the top four, because you're probably going to look at four in a 16 team conference, right? Excuse me. You're going to look at, because that makes things easier. So for this example, because the fourth team that I've heard discussed most is Carolina. So you're going to say Miami, Carolina, Clemson, Florida State. Those teams get, if those four teams average, 13% input each, then they get 10 and a half, 11%, and then the other teams are going to get, obviously they're going to get a haircut a little bit. They're going to get 5 to 7% on their end. But yeah, it's going to have to just be like, look, like we're doing more of the work, so, and we're making more of that money. And so we need to be getting a larger share of that money. It's a wonder that it's come to this, that it's taken as long as it has to come to this point. But this is something that, like, I mean, I even remember talking to Bud about, back when he was at SB Nation and we're, going out for wings and beer after recruiting combines back in the early 2010s. You know what I mean? Like, a thing like, oh, well, so yeah, like, which team should make more? And like, clearly, Florida State's on top of the world at that point. So it's like, oh, Florida State should. I'm like, well, yeah, duh. You're going to push for that because, burgeoning Heisman Trophy winner, national championship team, playoff next year, or BCF, whatever. But even then, it's like the brand of the U is still so strong that Miami is inevitably and intentionally going to be in every one of those conversations moving forward, which is going to be something that's really interesting to see, because that's, especially with the state of the ACC and things, as terms of a competitive towards a championship football, conference and having championship level programs therein moving forward. That's really going to be It's really going to be key, and it really that's going to have to be done because they're hamstrung by the grant of rights just extending for so long. Like, and like, because if you're ESPN, you're getting all of those top teams at such a haircut, at such a discount from what it is. Like I'm playing MLB The Show 21. I have a new Oakland A's franchise because I made a mistake. I was doing the Blue Jays, but I clicked whatever. So I switched over to the A's, but it's coming to the point where it's like, look, these rookie deals are coming up, but I got an 88 rated shortstop at 21 years old who was in the minors when I took over that organization. Look, he's making $500,000 a year playing all-star baseball. Sign me up, right? But then when he comes for his new contract, he'll be like, yo, now I got to get paid, right? But if I can lock him in for so long, then I'm getting this great value. Like this, the performance is way outpacing the value of what I'm paying him. That's what's happening with every time that, one of these teams, and really, those four teams, and, another team might pop up every now and then, but Miami, Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson, every time that they're on national television, ESPN is getting such a discount because we're like, yo, we're paying them pennies on the dollar for what it could be. And what could it be? Look at the Big Ten and look at the SEC. Like that's, like you see it in the market, and ESPN's like, we're not paying that, and we don't have to pay that because we got them locked in on this Death Row Records 360 record deal until 36.